The Pavo 25 V2 is coming for you, Cinebot30. That's right, we finally may have a competitor to the Cinebot30. If you had looked back about a year ago now, Geprc came out with the Cinebot30, and that one's been a long time favorite for duality as far as being able to perform smooth cinema or go outside and rip some freestyle FPV. So duality is a big factor when it comes to buying a Cinewhoop, that you want to have 2-in-1 options on there as far as cinema, and just be able to kind of go out and do a rip session with it, have prop guards, be able to do it kind of in a smaller space. And what's neat about this one is when I pulled it out of the box, the first thing I noticed, if you're me, you notice these kind of things. I pull it out of the box and I'm looking at this frame, and it's pretty small. It is a 2.5-inch frame, but it has 1505 motors on here. So immediately I thought, oh my God, 1505 motors with a 4S battery, that's gonna freaking rip. And I knew in comparison to what we just flew last week, the Pavo 20, a much smaller little indoor, kind of outdoor quad that did pretty good on freestyle. It was a lot, I would say it's like a mild freestyle quad. This one is a total opposite. It seems to have all the power of something like the Cinebot30, but shrunk down to the 2.5-inch form factor. So that's really a lot of fun for me. And the neatest thing about this one is that not only can it rip like a rocket outside, it can also, you can bring down the camera angle and slow way down for interior cinema shots or outdoor tree exploration. So let's go ahead outside now. 4S brand new pack, 4S 850 lava battery will get you an upwards of 6 minutes flight time as far as freestyle, and I would say around 7 to 7.5 minutes if you're just kind of cruising and doing mild cinema. I'll give you some advice on this one as far as the setup, the build of the O3 or whatever type of video system you want to put on here, and yeah, let's go rip. Here we go. Welcome back from the flight test, guys. The Pavo 25 V2 weighs 187.2 grams on the scale without the battery. This is the 4S 850 I'm going to put on there, and that's going to bring us up around 282 grams total takeoff weight. The 4S 850 lava battery will get you an upwards of 6 minutes flight time as far as freestyle, and I would say around 7 to 7.5 minutes if you're just kind of cruising and doing mild cinema. Now, one of the big differences of the V2 version versus the original Pavo 25 is it has a larger frame. This is a 112 millimeter frame. The old one was 108 millimeter. It also has an F7 flight controller on here, and it has 1505 motors versus the old 1404 motors on the original one. And the V2 also has a nice O3 camera staging on here with miniature grommets and pretty large bolts that run through this carbon stage, but also has a secondary feature for adding any type of GoPro on here as well. So if you want to add the full-size GoPro mount on here, you can do that, and you can run a variety of different cameras on this quad. It also has LEDs that you can add on as an option. You can get different colors. I believe you can get red, blue, white, and even pink or purple. They just plug in on the very bottom back here with a little simple cable, JST connector right there. And we have 4 bolts on the bottom that will release your video system out. 4 bolts also release this prop guard system as well, and it makes it pretty easy to get to the flight controller when you're adding receivers or setting up your video system. That's kind of an easy way. They do have metal standoffs on the side, so if you look here, front and back, side to side, we have these kind of built-in metal posts that go through the prop guards and give it a more rigid kind of connection to the carbon body, which is also kind of a nice outer structure, but it does make things kind of tight in here. So when you're trying to access your ports, you will definitely need something, a 90-degree angle connector for the standard micro USB that goes to the F7 flight controller. You will need that. You will also probably need some kind of 90-degree connector for your O3 or walk snail system, because again, it is kind of tight in here. And I had 2 dipole antennas coming off my O3, which I mounted on this bottom plate here. They are tucked up inside the frame, and it didn't give me any difference as far as having them sticking up through the top. You could also bring them up through the top right here, but in my instance, I'm just flying around the yard and not really going far with this quad. It was totally fine. Now on the back, I also have my Immortal T coming out and easy access to the receiver. This is a 2.4 ELRS receiver that came with mine. They also have the singular antenna option for the O3s to come out the back, or an analog type of antenna. Now, one thing that I really liked was the way that the battery mount is set up. You just have a strap that goes through both of these aluminum connectors. They screw down to the frame, and they actually go into those aluminum standoffs that I was showing you here. There's kind of a 2-in-1 standoff. It comes up to a little ridge here, and this just slides right through, which is kind of a cool system because it's easy to get a strap on and off, and it's also kind of nice to put the battery down on these 2 3M sticky pads. Comes right over top of the battery, and it holds a 4S 850 perfectly. So the strap is right, and it's a pretty nice rigid battery mount kind of set up for this quad. Now these props are set up in the right turn rear configuration. That's the standard multi-rotor configuration, so the right motor will be turning to the right, and it's easy to remember RRR, right turn rear. Just a great little thing for the new guys. Now also, if you're new to Cinewhoops, you might not know that a lot of them have inverted motors, and what that actually does is it makes it fly a lot smoother. It removes a lot of the frame kind of interference that if you had it facing up, the frame would be having all kinds of kind of velocity happening here, turbulence. And so with this inverted motor design, we have a much kind of a smoother airflow, and we don't have any frame interruption there. So your motors are on here, 1505 motors on here, 4500 kV. They're just pretty beastie for this size frame, and I feel like it's like an 11-to-1 type of power ratio. We also have four M2 bolts holding on the D63 props from Gemfan. So these are 3-blade Cinewhoop style props with kind of a bull nose on the end right here, chopped, and very smooth, but also extremely powerful with this kind of wide chord prop that we have going on here. So I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like BetaFpv has a pretty good solid success with the Pavo series in general. I have all kinds of different versions of their Pavo series. I mean, starting out with a 3.5-inch one that they did a while back with that 360 camera. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was one of the Insta360 cams that you could mount inside the frame, and it would not show the quad while you were filming. It was pretty cool. It kind of eliminates the whole quad unless you move the camera around on a 360. This one is more for interior shots. And if you want to go outside and just totally rip some freestyle stuff, or if you want to chase motorcycles, downhill snowboarding, things like that, you need a lot of speed. You can crank this camera up, and with the 1505 motors on here, you're going to be able to catch anything on 4S850. It is super fast, so it has more versatility versus something like the Pavo 20 that we reviewed last week. This one is quite a bit smaller, but also has less options. This one's more of a kind of a something you might fly through a nightclub or a bar or some kind of type of crowd situation if you're trying to do pro video. This one, on the other hand, I really wouldn't want to fly this one around too many people. This one's more for a real estate type of video where you don't have crowds around or you don't have to fly over top of people. So this one's also, again, way more powerful, and in my opinion is right on par with the Geprc Cinebot30. So I feel like, you know, could this be a Geprc Cinebot30 killer? Possibly. It's a lighter format with probably a bigger power to weight ratio as far as the power system goes. It's zero. I mean, it's from zero throttle to like max ceiling. Doing the power loops in the backyard around the grapes where we usually do, I was going way higher than I really meant to. Just a little bump of the throttle sent me sky high. So I think it has tons of power with the 1505 motors, and it's a really kind of an awesome thing because you can also go minimum throttle and back off the throttle, and it'll settle back down for some slow flying around the yard, which was kind of crazy that it had that kind of duality. So I think it's a rocket, or it'll do cinema. So yeah, it's all boils down to what you want in a quad. Do you want something super mild? Go for the 20. If you want something mild to wild, go for the Pavo 25 V2. If you want to try to have a discount, I'll try to put a link down below, as well as some type of discount code. It might be just Justin Davis, lowercase, but I'll make sure I put that down below in the link if you want to grab one and try out some of those 4S850 lava packs. I think they're doing pretty good, but they're brand new batteries, and that's how they should perform. They should perform awesome. But I appreciate you guys checking out what's new on the channel. And again, you can check this one out in the link down below. It does benefit the channel, and it helps keep Drone Camps reviewing all the newest and latest and greatest quadcopters and e-bikes and all that cool stuff right here on the channel. Please do subscribe, guys, and take care. I will definitely see you on the next one.